Hi, this is Charlene Burke with Grow Because You Know. That's www.growbecauseyouknow.com. Welcome to Morning Mindset Cafe, where we are discussing the book Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude, written by Napoleon Hill and W. Clement Stone. This book in particular, the hard copy I have, was printed in 1969. The book itself was first released in 1960. For those in the live stream, there is a PDF available to you to download and follow along in the short section that I'm going to be referring to today. So for today's Morning Mindset Cafe, we're going to talk about, are you a square peg in a round hole? That's a question that is posed to us in the book at the end of chapter 14. So if you have a PDF, whatever copy of the book that you have, we're at the end of chapter 14. And one of the headers is, are you a square peg in a round hole? So the page number in my book is 162. I have a feeling that the page number in the PDF is going to be around 230, roughly, in that general vicinity. Again, you're looking for a header that says, are you a square peg in a round hole? Header being, it could also be a bolded sentence. The characteristics, abilities, and capacities. See, I love that word, capacities. How many times do we actually say to ourselves, I'm not capable? It has nothing to do with it. Because you can become capable, right? If you have the capacity to become capable. Anyway, so the characteristics, abilities, and capacities that make you happy and successful in one environment may create an opposite reaction in another. You have a tendency to do well when you do what you want to do. You're called a square peg in a round hole when you work or engage in activities that don't come naturally and that are inwardly repellent. In such an unhappy situation, you can change your position and place yourself in an environment that is pleasing to you. We understand it may not be feasible to change your position. You can then make adjustments in your environment to coincide with your characteristics, abilities, and capacities so that you will be happy. When you do this, you square the hole. This solution will help change your attitude from negative to positive. If you develop and maintain a burning desire to do so, you can even neutralize and change your tendencies and habits by establishing new ones. You can round the peg if you're sufficiently motivated. But before you achieve success in changing your tendencies and habits, be prepared to face mental and moral conflicts. You can win if you're willing to pay the price. You may find it difficult to pay each necessary installment, particularly the first few. But when you have paid in full, the newly established traits will predominate. The old tendencies and habits will become dormant. You will be happy because you will be doing what now comes naturally. To guarantee success, it is desirable that you try zealously to maintain physical, mental, and moral health during the period of such an internal struggle. Short, jam-packed with pretty intense stuff. This is interesting. Cindy is saying, just on the basis of the title, are you a square peg in a round hole? Her immediate answer is yes. That's part of why I don't fit in traditional work. And she's sharing that in the PDF that we have as a download to everybody, it appears that page 244 is where we are. And it is that short. It's pretty intense. It really is. I always called myself a square peg in a round hole because I just didn't fit in a lot of places. And in all honesty, the description here is quite accurate. The description is that I wasn't playing to my strengths. I wasn't playing to what came naturally to me. I had a natural tendency, right? Natural characteristics, natural skills and talents that either there wasn't a place for them, or when there was a place for them, I was asked, or it appeared that I would be better served doing something else. Now, what I'm going through in my mind right now is my growing up years. So there has to be a caveat here that my growing up years was, it appears, was very, very different than most people's. And I say that because unless you were in the military and or were in a had a parent in a job that required a lot of moving, then that's why it's different. Initially, the family was military. Father was in the Air Force, so we moved. That's when I spent time overseas, went to school overseas and different countries and what have you. And then he took a job in the States that he was very, very good at. So about every 18 months to 2 years, we were moved. He was transferred, so we followed. And that's a different environment than somebody who comes from an environment of close to poverty where, and I've met people like this, where so what we share in common is the continually changing environment. And what we did not share in common was, in all actuality, I had a pretty solid core family unit that provided me support, whereas they didn't. And in a lot of cases, they didn't. So with me, it was 4 grade schools, 4 high schools. It was also some of the expectations from family of being the first girl child, right? The first girl, the first granddaughter, what was expected of me. And those expectations were very different than what Charlene really wanted to do. In all honesty, an example is, I gave this example to a young woman not too long ago over a cup of coffee, was that when it was offered at a particular school, I wanted to take shop. I wanted to go into auto body because in my mind, I thought it'd be really cool to be able to eventually to work with those tools, but more so to learn the engine and become a mechanic. You don't do that in my family. So now you're seeing, right, where my natural tendencies are is to fix things, to organize things. It's a natural tendency to be in the background and manage things in the background. That's my natural skill set. Today I can play to them, and today I can enhance them, and today I can, and I do. And there's a reason why I do the work that I do in my business. It was because the skill set comes naturally to me. And that's the beginning. That's the beginning of the natural portion, because then you must have knowledge, education, experience, in order to improve upon the natural tendencies, right? The natural talents and skills, that which comes easy to us as a start. And that's what I did when I started my business. I love to research. I love to curate information. I am a sponge when it comes to information, and I have a skill to be able to organize that information for myself and others, to be able to discern what is important, relevant, and what's not, which of course falls naturally into doing business research, right? Eventually, when I was in my 30s, I learned that the jobs that I was in, for a variety of reasons, really weren't suited to me. So I tried changing. I went back to school, got an original degree in marketing and business, went back to school, electronic engineering and robotics. And for many years was playing to one of my natural strengths, which was wanting to fix things. I became a high-end, I call it a high-tech mechanic. It was awesome. I had a toolbox. I was about half the size I am now, so I was able to crawl into a lot of different pieces of equipment. I'd come out full of grease and with a big-ass grin because I fixed it, right? Troubleshooter. And then, of course, the mental problem solving that came with that was something that I'm a what-if person, and I'm always questioning, looking for root causes, so that's natural to me. Then I became a design engineer, and that was natural to me. So there's pieces and portions of jobs that I've had that were fantastic. Where the square peg comes in for me, and that I didn't have really the skills to overcome, were in the careers that I was in and the jobs and the work that I did. My unnatural tendency and huge challenge for me was communication, was being able to understand people. And I could understand the word. If you wrote it, it wasn't a problem. But I didn't understand how to have conversations that weren't relevant to what was right in front of us. Some people call it small talk. It's deeper than that. I didn't understand why people responded the way they did to each other, because from my point of view, there was no reason to respond to that. I didn't know how to articulate what was in my head to somebody else so that they could understand it. So now you can see conflict, right? Constant tension, constant stress, constant conflict. I wasn't able to apply this principle. Today I can, but it's because the environment I'm currently working in is my base. And from there, when I'm in an uncomfortable situation, when I feel like the square peg in a round hole, I recognize it and I can adjust myself to suit the situation as needed. But it's because it's temporary. So Cindy is sharing, she doesn't envy military families. It's hard to establish relationships. I know it's a little easier now than before because of internet, but it still must be difficult. Cindy always wanted to shop because she wanted to be able to make things. See, and I wanted to fix them. You build them, I fix them. I'm cool with that. She wanted auto mechanics because she wanted to not have to rely on anyone else for her vehicle. Oh, yes. That was me, my independent streak. Wanted to play drums because it was an active instrument and was a leader instrument while the drummer hides in the background. Percussion was not. It's not in my skill set. All the other instruments are. They come very, very easily to me, but drums, no. Or any percussion, actually. I loved writing because it was communication, but not in the limelight. I can go with that. In that, I can relate to that. I never thought about it, any of it being the active helping type work. Okay. Moving tendency to potential. Oh, no, that's interesting. Moving tendency to potential. Okay. Hunya, that's an interesting statement. Yeah, well, part of the communication issue for you, Cindy's saying, for me, is because of the military moves and not needing that because of not having long established relationships. Yes, part of it. The other part is that I was almost deaf. So hearing impaired and inability to understand what you're actually saying, which is why I always say the written word is so much better. And then you put on top of that, that just my natural tendency was that I didn't do well around people. I didn't do well around people. Didn't know how to express emotion, didn't express emotion. A lot of other things involved. And yet, here I sat. I challenged myself. I joined Toastmasters so I could learn to speak to people. I'm a great learner. I'm coachable. As long as I'm the one that decides that I want to change or I want to learn something. Now that takes us right back to, if you're a square peg in a round hole, you're the one that has to make the decision of what you're going to do to fit where you are in order to have a bit of sanity and a level of contentment or peace, or what we're saying here out of the book is to guarantee success, to be happy, to stay motivated, to be able to achieve success in your selected or chosen field and where you're not playing to your strengths. All of this. I'm being Hunyan. Love that name, Hunya Garcia. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's a wonderful name. Glad to have you with us.
Glad to be here.
So what do you think of all this?
I think you are hitting the nail on the head with certain
or the
things.
Peg on the, sorry.
There you go. Pun intended. Nice. I've been in the military for a little while, so I understand a little bit of the changes. And it's funny. I got sent to this master resiliency course, and one of the things you have to do is do a character assessment. So being in a leadership position for the military, I did it, and I thought, you know what, leadership is definitely one of my top characteristics, one of my top characteristic strengths. And after doing the assessment, out of like 24 or 72, leadership was like the second to last.
Oh dear. Oops.
So,
well, I'd say you had a little bit of work to do.
Yes. But what happened was I started realizing that leadership, you don't have to be a leader to examine leader or to do, or you don't have to be a leader to give leadership.
Yep.
So it was different skills that I was using to lead. The skill to always want to learn, the skill to have a sense of humor, the skill to understand different things, or the skill to sell. All of those can turn into leadership skills, or to make a person a leader themselves. So I was examining it wrong, and it, not being a natural born leader at this point, I recognize, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. And when you realize who you are and exactly what your tendencies are and what your potential truly is, you could stop trying to squeeze that peg into that square and actually, just kind of go with the flow and find out what makes you, and, from mechanic to shop to all the good things, those are things that are so rare to hear a woman say, hey, I want to do this, like what, so. It really.
I know a lot of them that did, quite honestly.
Okay.
But those are the circles I'm in right now, and a lot of them did it. The gal I was speaking to, she is on her way to becoming a master carpenter, and she works construction, and she loves to build things, and she loves to learn, and she puts up with all the ick that comes with being the only woman on a blue collar team, but she can wield a 2x4 without a problem. So she can take care of herself.
Yeah.
But she, so she's doing it. And then of course the others, that the geeks, the women geeks, are the ones that I connect with greatly. But again, it's, you're saying that you thought you had a good handle on what leadership was. And when you learned that it was actually different than what you thought it was, is when you learned that the skill set you were bringing to the table really wasn't. You just simply had to change the vocabulary, is what it sounds like to me. Am I right?
Close, very close. It's kind of like what Roy said. In order to be a leader, one must first lead themselves.
Good morning, Roy. Good to see you. I've known Roy forever.
I know, right? So it's kind of like that, where you find out your strengths. So a lot of things had to change. Instead of me talking at a soldier, he's saying, hey, high speed, get over there. Oh, put that there. You know, it kind of became one of those things where you come out with your tea in the morning and you say, hey, listen, guys, this is what we need to do by the end of the day. So my approach changed because I recognized what my strength really was. It wasn't me yelling orders. It was me being able to give the orders in a way that motivates. So a different kind of leadership, or at least what I thought leadership was.
Right. Well, and I never viewed myself, and still really don't, as a leader. And it's because, in all honesty, we're going to go back to my own issues when it comes to social and working with people. I'm much better in one-to-ones and very small groups. And I am not drawn to, in all honesty, if I want to get the job done, here, just go do it. I really don't care how you feel about it. Just go do it, all right? So whenever I get into lengthy conversations with just, like executive coaches, high performance coaches, whether it's for athletes or for the C-suites, because I'm, again, in those conversations, trying to explore my own growth and where I am and how they do their work and what have you. It continues to confirm for me I have no business being in that field. And it's because it's all this, and I call it woo-woo and touchy-feely stuff. And that is just difficult for me. And so it's not natural, right? It's not a good just walk in like I am a square peg in a square hole, that it's a fit. I just walk in and I can naturally not take charge, but lead a group. Now, I can naturally and fit right in if you tell me to take charge of something. That's not a problem. Manage the project, not manage the people. That's not a problem. So there's a difference, right?
Definitely.
There's a difference. So here you found that, and yet you had aspirations to be a leader, correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, what about the jobs or work that wasn't suitable for you? Did you stay in them long, or did you adjust with some of the things we're talking about here, where your mental adjustment to make sure that you fit the job or it fits you for now so that you can walk away satisfied?
Had to change. First thing I did to even last the few years that I was there, as far as that specific job, it's funny because it's kind of different from where you're at. I was a helicopter mechanic at a certain time for the Black Hawk helicopters. So it was, everybody there loved it. I did.
So I'm already thinking, boy, I'd love to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody there loved it. They absolutely loved it. I didn't. I was like, man, my nails are getting dirty. Like, what's going on here?
I love it.
So here I am, a helicopter mechanic. I went out to be a crew chief for an airplane, and so it was good. The traveling, we're going everywhere, and then I was supposed to be going to flight school, and then it was just like something just wasn't gelling, and then I started to realize, you know what? It's not me. What I'm supposed to be doing, it's not here. So once I did that assessment, I actually changed and then became the broadcast specialist for the unit I was in, which is a whole different job, whole different thing. And you know what? I liked it a whole lot more. I just end up loving it a whole lot more. So.
Fantastic. I love what you said about saying that the recognition that this that it's not me It's the environment.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Say wave. Hello.
Right. What's it like?
So what we're saying is, what I liked was you were able to say that it's not you, it's the environment. I just need to make a change. What happened to me is I got stuck in a thinking of it is me. And so then I had years of struggle of my trying to fit in, because I don't recall a space where I really just walked in and it was natural and it was okay to be there. So I didn't think like that. What I thought was, well, I'm the problem. I'm always the problem. Every time I walk in, I'm bringing me in and I'm the problem. And when I hit my 30s, is well into my 30s, I think I was 36, was when I got that realization that this just isn't working anymore, and I need to explore where else I can go and what else I can do. So it came a little late in life, but it came. And then eventually I got to a point where I actually was able to make the decision to step out on my own and just do what works for me, which turns out other people kind of like what I do, which is even better. Hello, Roy.
Good morning, Charlene.
Good to
Junior,
see you.
What's
Been
up,
forever.
Roy?
good to see you too, my friend. I
Same
remember
here,
you
brother.
from a few months ago. That's it's good to see you again. And I just decided to jump in because I saw, I look for Charlene when I'm awake at this time, and she usually has a really good title that just sucks me in. And I I saw
And
the
here you
square
are.
peg. And here I am.
I am not
Saw the-
surprised you are here, Roy.
Oh my goodness. If I'm up early enough, lately I haven't been getting up early or staying up late enough. I'm on the West Coast, so it's 5:33 a.m. here. But Charlene doesn't care about that. She just starts it whenever she wants. So
There you go.
no, but I love what you're saying, Junior, is about not fitting in, right? One of the quotes that I love is about people who, if you don't fit, you're not going to commit. And I totally believe that. And once I learned that from a friend of mine who was just talking to me about cells in the body and how they move around and how they look for some place to fit in. And if they don't, they move on. And it's like, whoa, isn't that like relationships or the things we're supposed to be doing in life? And here I hear you saying exactly that. It's like, yeah, Charlene's going like, I'll do that. Black Hawk helicopter. Oh man, yeah, I'm in. And Junior's there doing it at the envy of a lot of people. And he's like, well, nah, not me. Not me. I mean, I have a friend who's a surgeon, a doctor, and same thing for him. He went through all the medical schooling, this, and he became a doctor. And he's like, this is not me. Because I'm telling people to do things as a doctor that I know is not the truth, because there's more to it than just the doctoring, so to speak, because there's that headset, the mindset, the heart set that's involved. And that's what I'm hearing. Your heart wasn't in it, brother?
At all. At all. Instead, I chose to hold that microphone in front of a bunch of people and report the news.
I love that. I say that a lot too. Yes.
So yeah. Since the helicopter unit, been a news anchor for 3 years, and it was yes.
And you love that.
Oh man, absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. If
that's what you're put on earth to do, and you know it. Your brilliance is in your blind spot, and it was just in your blind spot initially. You didn't know what leadership was until you went in to look at it, and you went, "Wow, this is different than what I thought." And I think it's that way for a lot of us. The fantasy we have in our head is not the reality that's really out there. And when we discover it, it's like, ooh, we just grew up. You know what I'm saying?
Now, with that given, Charlene Roy, now how often is it that we should be evaluating ourselves and then looking and saying, you know what, maybe this is not it, or maybe, there's even successful companies, right, where people are just successful, they're succeeding. Should they reevaluate? How often is it that somebody has to remeasure?
Absolutely.
Always.
You should never stop. I mean, look at Colonel Sanders, look at Grandma Moses. Look when they started their entrepreneurship and their businesses. It was later in life. So,
but they tried all sorts of things in the meantime. Now, wait a
Exactly.
minute. They tried all sorts of things in the meantime. They never stopped trying. There's others that succeeded at 20
That's my
because
point.
after
Is it
3 years
yes.
of trying, boom, they hit their sweet spot. Now, in answer to Hunya's question about how often you should do this, I do an annual retreat. And what I love about these books and Think and Grow Rich and Law of Success and others is that in that annual retreat, there is a self-assessment. There's a self-questionnaire. And we're talking a ton of questions. Where am I now? You know, how am I responding to things?
Yes.
How do I see myself? How do others see me? What does the world look like to me? Am I the square peg in the round hole? Do I need to shave off or do I need to square up? Right. And then from that, what I've learned to do is to do a spot checks and nightly assessments. But it's because I'm in a continuous growth mode, and I did it on purpose. I
Well,
can say
see, that's it. On purpose, as you say, with purpose. And I was just about to say, for about the last decade or so, after listening to John Maxwell ask this question, which I said no to, I now say yes to and ask others, and that is, you do have a personal growth plan, don't you?
yeah, that's it.
Roy,
That's
what in the
simple.
world is a personal growth plan, Roy?
That's simple. Well, see, that's it. If you don't know what it is, you're not doing it, you don't have it. And now I can tell you, hey, if you're not a better version of yourself today than you were yesterday, you don't have a personal growth plan.
Yeah.
You should be able to measure your own progress day to day. And I tell you what, it happens with one-liners. It really does. And for me, it's so simple. A child could do it. And so what I learned from John Maxwell is, well, maybe not from John, but this is the one-liner that I go with. You're the same, and I don't know who said this. You're the same person today as you will be in a year or 5 years or 10 years from now, except for two things: the people you meet and the books you read.
Oh.
And when I say the books you read today, it's the same thing as an article on the internet, a video, a
The
YouTube video.
information you take in. The information
Exactly.
you take in.
Because when this was quoted, I don't think there was an internet. So it's what you see and read and ingest, and the people you meet, and that's so true. And so you better take inventory of what you're intaking and the people you're around. And I think that's going to change how you are from day to day, version 2.1, 2.2, and so forth.
And two, I think that it's important that we recognize that when we are uncomfortable, when we have emotional discomfort or mental anguish in the job or work we're doing, whatever that may be, we need to pay attention to it.
Amen.
That forcing ourselves, because I used to do this. Again, I at the very beginning, I was saying I thought I was the problem. So I tried to force myself to be what others told me I needed to be and what I thought they told me that I needed to be. And that's it's a horrifying place to be. And I've been there. I don't want to go there again. So until I recognized, as Hunya did, that, wait a minute, it isn't me. It's just simply the environment I am in. So let's change the environment. When I did that, then great things happen. And then I could have a personal growth plan, because it involves, in order to have a personal growth plan, you have to be willing to give an honest assessment of yourself. Am I right, Roy? You have to have that honest assessment.
There's no way around it. If you're not honest with yourself, it's not a growth plan. It's just, a pipe dream.
Yeah.
You have to be honest with yourself. And a lot of people aren't, because they were taught somehow. And it's more a caught type of thing than it is a taught type of thing. Because when I ask people, why do you think this way? Why do you do this way? They go, I don't know. I like to tell you a story that may hit home with a lot of people, and it may wake them up and they may go, wow, I never thought about that. That Roy guy woke me up with that silly ham story. So a husband says to his wife, honey, why do you cut off the end of the ham when you put it in the pan? I see you do it all the time. She says, honey, I don't know. I saw my mom do it. Let's ask mom. Hey, mom, why do you cut the end off the ham? I saw you do it. My husband's asking me, why am I doing it? I have no clue. Wow, honey, I don't know either. I saw your grandmother do it. Let's ask grandma. Hey, grandma. Ask the
That's
same
it.
question. Here's what grandma says. Grandma says, I cut the end off the ham because it wouldn't fit in the pan.
Boom.
You watch your parents do something, you don't know why they're doing it, you do it anyway, and then when someone asks you, you have no clue. And then when you go back to find the answer, you find, oh my goodness, I didn't ask why you did this because it doesn't apply to my life. I didn't have to do this. And I think a lot of us drift into this from our childhood. We
I don't know
moral.
that we drift. I think it's just a part of who we are until we are intrigued by somebody else, or unless we're asked to do an assessment or to explain ourselves, or we find ourselves in a situation at a teenage, 20s, 30s, whatever age, but we find ourselves saying, I just don't really want to do this. Why am I doing this? What was the point here? Just as you said. Because there's a similar story that there's a gal I know that used to collect egg cartons. And what she did was she newly married, would put the egg cartons from the grocery when they're empty up on top of the refrigerator, and they just kept stocking and stocking. And finally, husband asked her, why in the world are you doing that? Well, my mom always did. Right? Same story. Mom always did. Goes to mom, and mom says, well, I used to get the eggs from the farm down the road, and they didn't, it costs more if I had to buy these every time. So I just saved them so that they could refill when I went to the farm. Something that simple, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I say default or design. That's how you live your life. You live it on default, or you
Okay.
live it by design. So when I say the D word, the drift, it's like that's just your default state, right? You just do what you think you should do, and I call it drifting because you have no focus. Focus is when you follow one course until successful, and if you have no course, you're doing what Zig says. You're being a wandering generality. Zig Ziglar says you cannot make it as a wandering generality. You must become a meaningful specific, and you have to have a point B. You have to have a vision. You have to have a goal. You have to know where you're going. If I'm going to New York and I'm in California, I got to have a plan. Otherwise, I'll drift and I'll never get there.
It's funny that you said that. I used to teach martial arts for a few years. I was a manager at Joe Corley Karate in Atlanta, Georgia. So one day Joe Corley said, this guy is, he's up in age, but he's still like one of the greatest martial artists I've ever met in the world. Could just kick your butt at 70 years old. He says, you can't walk around just being a human being instead of a human being. And it was the weirdest thing. I was like, the human being.
Well, what he's saying, and I think is, to correct me if I'm wrong, before you continue with how he explained it, I want to make sure I'm on the same path that you are, which is you can't just be a human doing. You really do need to be a human being. That before anything else, we are. And if you start from that point, then that can dictate what we do.
Exactly.
That was almost profound. Almost. Almost. I'm gonna work on that one.
It is. It absolutely is. I'm reminding people a lot. You listen. Life is not as difficult as you think. A lot of people make life way more difficult than it has to be. Why? Because they think incorrectly. Stinking thinking. Another Zig Ziglar, right? Zig Ziglar says you better get a checkup from the neck up on a daily basis to remove your stinking thinking so they don't lead to the hardening of the attitude.
Boy, that's why we're here this morning.
I know, and I love this because if you don't know,
help us think.
If you don't know that all you need to do is show up and be yourself, just be you, be who you're supposed to be, instead of attempting to do who you think you should be. For Charlene, for Junia, for me, for anybody else. I mean, a lot of people go around thinking, oh, I have to be one person for them, a different person for them, and they can't keep it square, and it drives them absolutely batty. I think this is the average default way of living, and I think it sucks, and somebody needs to tell you and give you the gift of awareness, stop it.
Yeah. And you know, it's funny, listening to everything, it just sounds like you have to remain a student of life. You know,
Always,
everything that we're saying,
always.
you know,
Yeah.
remain a student of life, never stop and think, you know what, I got it. No matter what, I got it. I am the expert. And this is the way to do it. You know,
Yes.
and being in the martial arts world, you hear that a lot too. Like, oh, this is the expert at this, you know. And you know, you look at how martial arts was taught to me 30 years ago to how it's taught now, and it's like, yo, I
Very
mean,
different.
yeah, very, very, from the pads you hit, from how you position your foot to now the UFC came in with all these different things. You know, I mean,
Interesting.
it's a
Is that a
totally different thing.
response? What's that a response to? A response to personal development? A response
It is.
to helping you to fit in the world or be the leader? Or
It is, and you know, one thing that never changes is Bruce Lee saying, "Be like water." You know, water can fit in any container, but still always water. You know, it's funny.
well, water's very powerful. That's why I
Very,
loved that when he would talk like that, because
very,
water, one drop of water can destroy. One drop of water can give life or sustain life. So it's powerful.
very, very, and that's what he's saying to be, because so often we see, since we're talking about water and we're talking about elements, we'll see fire and see how amazing it is, and we try to be that fire. We try to be, oh, this, I want to be this fire. I want to be this. You know, when I was learning martial arts and when I was fighting, I was, you know, I picture Mike Tyson uppercutting somebody, and I'm like, I have to win a fight with this super uppercut. So I'm practicing this uppercut 1,000 times. But it's funny because when I got into the ring, most of the knockouts were actually from my jab. My jab was the leading knockout punch for me. It was just, but it wasn't like anyone else, you know. So it's, you know,
because it came naturally to you. And that's what I love. This is all showing up, right? We're all showing up here, you and Roy and me, that we're saying exactly what we're talking about here, is that you have natural tendencies, natural skills and talents that you can be successful with. And all it takes is being willing to hone them, willing to be educated, to add to the level of talent or skill you're bringing to the table. What comes naturally is what we will succeed at. Love that. That's exactly that's what I was hearing you say, Unya.
Every time. When you have a father or a mother that says, you must be a doctor or a lawyer because we were 13 years, generations. Okay, forget that noise. If you're not cut out to be that, even though you can be that, you shouldn't be that. It really is that simple. And, you know, kids do this with their parents. We see movies where they do this. We know friends who have done this, but I don't think kids do it enough in a good way where, but then again, it's their parents who, they shouldn't be forcing their kid into that
I don't know, because I think sometimes, you know, I don't know that it's a shoulda, woulda, coulda thing. I think all of us do the best we can with what we have. I know my parents did. They thought everything they did with me was the right way. So then they tried something different with my brothers. and we're three distinct. Well, no.
Was it like, oh, that didn't work?
They did it too. That's the first
But
part.
here's the thing. Even looking back, we laugh at it. My mother laughs. She says, we're three distinctly different people. So none of it really worked. What they were trying to do would, you know, but they were only working with the skill sets they had. They loved us. They still love us. You know, it wasn't done in anything except I want the best for my kid. So, but we laugh because, well, and mom will sit there, my mother, in her well into her 70s, will just look at my husband and say, yeah, that didn't work with her then and it won't work now. She's not trying. And that's when it came out was, we tried something different with the boys. That didn't work either. But hey, you know, they're here. We're successful in our own right. We're three very distinctly different personalities. And we are who we are. I mean, today we're adults and fitting into what comes naturally to us. So
Personalities are huge. When I found out that I was a different personality than my wife, than my first wife, it changed everything for me. And it should change for everything for anyone who understands this. And people who say, well, I don't want to be labeled, I don't want to be called, on
well,
this,
doesn't
on the
matter. You're going to be
personality.
anyway.
Well, so what I say to people who say that is, well, what you just said is not even logical, because you don't want to be labeled, yet you just labeled yourself as not wanting to be labeled. So it's self-refuting, and we understand what
I
you
want to
meant.
be an anarchist until somebody else wants to be.
Exactly. They self-refute themselves, and I sit there and I go, you know what? How come we don't have Logic 101 in first grade? Because some people just are, I don't know. Logic
Yeah,
it escapes them.
it did. And what an interesting world we live in it because of it. I
If
mean,
you
it's
start to sell it at Walmart or eBay, I'm pretty sure you can make a killing, Roy. This thing is selling hotcakes, Roy.
Guys, listen. I've been known to speak Bluntanese on occasion.
on occasion. On occasion. That is your middle name, is it not?
It
I
is. It
understood.
is. But I keep it fun. Hopefully, I keep it fun.
All
So,
right.
so these people, I refer to them as, well, I'll make it a little nicer for your show, Charlene.
Thank you.
Dumb on purpose.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what they are. They're dumb
See,
on purpose.
I call it voluntary ignorance.
Well, same thing, right?
That's what
They
I've
know
always
better,
called
but they
it.
don't do better. I love Maya when she says, guys, do the best you can. And when you know better,
You do better.
do better.
Yeah.
And I see people who know better that don't do better, and that is dumb on purpose. Come on, guys.
And I agree. And that's awesome. That's also fits into this idea that if you are really struggling to separate yourself, to show that you are completely different than the group you are in, take a moment to figure out, why are you doing that? And why not find a group that actually it's more comfortable to be in? It's a lot less stressful. But
you brought up a
if
good point.
if you're an adrenaline junkie and you're trying to avoid looking at yourself, right? Okay, Ray, thanks for being here. Go ahead, Hunya.
No, I was just saying that's a good point. Now, at what point do you say, okay, you know what? Either I need to change or I need to change my environment? Or how do you recognize?
That's up to you. It's whatever line you have. I mean, look at your own life, right? You gave an example of being in a position. I mean, it's not like you had a lot of choices. I mean, you couldn't just up and walk out and get another job, right? Being in the military, you're kind of stuck there for a while. But you recognized it and said, so when the opportunity comes, I want to explore this. I want to be open to the opportunities over here because I'm recognizing this isn't suitable for me. You make the decision. That's why continual self-assessment happens. I call them spot checks now. I when I'm trying to make changes, trying to improve, wanting to be a particular way, change my habits, which, change my thinking and everything else, which really is just a continuous improvement, always under construction kind of thinking. I do, I catch myself. Oh, that's not how I wanted to be. I can recognize when I'm in an environment that isn't good for me. My discomfort tells me, but I also have to make a decision right then and there. Is the cost of my doing this worth it? Is the price I'm going to pay, is what we talked about yesterday. Is the price I'm going to pay worth it? I just don't say it that way to me. I just say, wait a minute, is this going to get me where I need to go? Is this part of the path I need to take? If it is, then it's worth the struggle. It's worth the challenge. It's worth, for me, all right, to put it just as what this looks like for me is when I started my business is when I suddenly realized I was going to actually have to talk to people. I was actually going to have to talk to people to sell my services. How in the world am I going to do that when you have somebody who doesn't communicate well at all? You go learn how to communicate. So I joined Toastmasters. and I was a Toastmaster for 3 years. And I went from not being able to remember any of my speeches because of the absolute stark raving white knuckled terror. And, I'm surprised my knees didn't shatter from the knocking, to being able to speak here as well as I can, to speaking on stage to hundreds, to leading workshops, to hosting live events, to being, I have no aspirations to be a speaker, to be recognized and called on to speak on a regular basis. But because it's a part of the path to getting me where I want to be with my business, I'm willing to do those things. It still doesn't come real natural to me. It really doesn't. But I'm willing to do that. I have the training now that I can fall back on. So.
It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. I remember somebody saying, when you do what you fear most, then you wouldn't have any fear, So.
Oh, I haven't done that yet. I thought I did. I thought I'd faced all my worst fears.
What is it, Charlene? What is the worst fear?
Oh, this keeps changing.
The what now?
Hey, listen, I've got 50 years of anxieties to break through here. I'm only 52. I've been working on this I've been working on this on purpose for probably, at least since my business started 8 years ago. A lot of those things. My biggest fear, honestly, I had no trouble telling you this when I was in my 20s. I held it solid. My biggest fear was people, places, and things. Absolutely terrified to walk outside the door and be a part of the world. Well, I'll tell you why. I would walk outside the door. Remember, hearing problem. I didn't have hearing aids. All right. Trying to navigate a world in which I couldn't understand. To navigate a world of people I'm very sensitive to the touch. I'm overly sensitive to bright lights, to a lot of activity. And so to go out in the world was just an immediate overload of sensation and high anxiety. And I navigated and I made it through. And for me, my successes was I was able to sleep at night and wake up in the morning and do it again. Wow. I made it through. I didn't know a lot of, this is all hindsight, right? Lessons I've learned now, I'm able to look back to see what all these issues are. This is why it's so wonderful. I can sit in my office, in my environment. I'm very comfortable here. I don't have overload of any stimuli. I can control the volume. That's why I love the headset. I can throw up the volume and I can hear you.
True.
And so again, those are all the things that come into the package of a human being, right? So just throwing that out there.
Story. Yeah,
I'm not kidding. My husband still tells people who tell him how awesome I am. And he tells me, he says, they saw you speak someplace and they think you're pretty awesome and all that. And I said, well, it's terrific. And then he tells them the story of what I was like when we married in 1990. And up until I went to Toastmasters and got out in the world to build a business. And people don't recognize me.
No, and I love your story, and your story needs to be, do you have a video of your story as you tell it right here like this? So concise. You need to, because, okay, so here's my thing. My thing is I want to know your backstory, because when I know your backstory, here's what happens. I cut you a lot of slack, right? When you're in my space, when you become a friend, when you become someone in my inner circle, I'm going to cut you a lot of slack if I know your backstory.
Yeah.
That's important. But I can't do anything about your backstory. Neither can you. Neither can anyone else. So I ask you for your front story now. And your front story is just, where are you going? What's your point B? What's your destination? What's your vision? Because maybe, just maybe, I might have something the same or similar or complementary, and I can help you, or I may know someone that can help you. That's what I think is
pretty cool.
Missing in people's thinking when they first do this networking thing, right? And or like what we're doing here. Charlene, I don't know if
I had to learn how to do all that. Pardon me?
Yeah. I'm saying, I don't know if you call your daily show here like networking or not, but in a sense it is. But in a sense it's more
it falls into it.
Right. But But my point is, it's more net friending than it is networking. We're all becoming friends here, or at least I think that's the
We're
case for
open to
most
it.
of us. Yes.
We're open to it.
Most of us want to show up here and befriend each other. And the befriending stage is where you act as if you're friends. And then the other person says, you know what? You do a pretty good job acting as my friend. How about you be my friend? And I be your friend. And I think this isn't verbalized enough. I think people just take it for granted. Oh, yeah, here's my friend Charlene. Charlene, are you really my friend? I don't know. We don't even know. We just say it, you know? It's like,
Right.
what are these online friendships? Are they real? Are they Memorex? Anyway, I know you got to close the show, so I'll be quiet.
Thank you. And I do. I'm going to close out the recording portion. Hang with me for just a moment, fellows. Thank you, Hunya. Thank you, Roy, for joining me in the live stream. Thank you so much in the chat area for contributing to the conversation. It's been a good morning, hasn't it? Thank you, those watching the replay. Hey, you've hung with us this long. Pretty cool. This is Charlene Burke with Grow Because You Know. That's www.growbecauseyouknow.com. Let's move forward with the day on purpose, with purpose, to grow our hearts, grow our minds, and grow our businesses. Until next time, have a great day.